Evander Kane has long been one of the NHL's most controversial figures, a talented power forward whose career has been overshadowed by lawsuits, suspensions, gambling debts, and locker room drama. Now, after being traded to his hometown, Vancouver Canucks, in a move that was slammed by fans and media alike, things hit a disturbing low. Just days after his Canucks signing, Kane was reportedly jumped outside a Vancouver bar by multiple people and required medical attention, while early reports suggest he did nothing to provoke the attack. But the message is clear: even in his own city, Kane's presence is not welcome. For a player trying to rebuild his image, this was supposed to be a homecoming. Instead, it's becoming a harsh reminder of why many still want nothing to do with him. But why is Evander Kane so hated? Well, the answer isn't that simple, and it goes way deeper than just headlines. This is why everyone hates Evander Kane. To better understand where the hatred came from, we have to go to the beginning. Kane was born in Vancouver, British Columbia in 1991. Growing up in Canada's hockey hotbed, he excelled at the sport from a young age. By mid-teens, he was already drawing attention for his skill and scoring touch. Kane played in top leagues and was a standout in the Western Hockey League, the premier junior hockey circuit in Western Canada. In 2007, as a Vancouver Giant, Kane won the prestigious Memorial Cup, the National Canadian Junior Championship. A year later, he was a finalist for the WHL Rookie of the Year, and by 2009, he set the Giants' franchise record for most goals in a season. By the time he was draft eligible, he had established himself as one of Canada's top junior talents. He was drafted in 2009 by the Atlanta Thrashers as 4th overall, with very high expectations. Over the next 2 seasons, he developed into a rising star. His play really picked up and he became an effective power forward with speed and scoring touch. In the summer of 2011, the Atlanta franchise moved to Winnipeg. Kane stayed with the team, and now playing in his home country, he blossomed even further. By the 2011-2012 season, he was one of Winnipeg's lead scorers. His style of play, hard driving goals and aggressive offense made him a fan favorite in the Jets market. However, contract negotiations created tension in the late 2014-2015 season. And on February 11, 2015, with Kane approaching the end of his contract, he was traded to the Buffalo Sabres. In Buffalo, Kane continued to show his offensive talents. His blazing shot and willingness to go to the net helped Buffalo become more competitive. Off the ice, however, Kane's behavior became a bigger story. In 2016, he was involved in a bar incident in downtown Buffalo that led to legal charges which later were dismissed. Sabres GM Tim Murray publicly expressed frustration, noting that such off-ice episodes were becoming a distraction for the team. As the story goes, in the early hours of June 24, 2016, Kane was involved into a wild altercation at a downtown Buffalo nightclub called Bottoms Up. According to multiple complaints filed with the police, Kane got into confrontations with at least 4 people that night, including 3 women and a bouncer. Several women alleged that Kane grabbed them forcibly inside the bar, reportedly yanking one woman's hair from behind, grabbing another by the throat, and pulling the 3rd woman's hair and neck. One of the women recounted that Kane told her, "You're coming to my house with me and you're going to like it." And when she refused, he grabbed her around the neck with both hands. The bar's bouncer also reported that Kane had to be removed. He received a text from the DJ around 3 AM saying, "Kane's gotta go." And when the bouncer tried to escort Kane out, Kane allegedly shoved him twice before someone else walked Kane out. After closing time, bar staff reviewed security footage and claimed the video showed Kane choking one of the women on the dance floor. This incident led to a misdemeanor charge against Kane a few weeks later. Kane turned himself in to the Buffalo Police on July 22, 2016, and was arrested with 4 counts of non-criminal harassment and 1 count of disorderly conduct, 1 more count of criminal trespass. Prosecutors alleged that Kane's aggressive behavior, grabbing people and refusing to leave, constituted harassment and trespassing. Kane's lawyer notably questioned how Kane could be trespassed, and according to him, Kane had been invited to the club by its owner. On August 1, 2016, Kane appeared in Buffalo City Court and pleaded non-guilty to all the charges. His lawyer denied any wrongdoing on Kane's behalf and called the allegations extremely exaggerated. They also downplayed the significance of any video evidence. As mentioned earlier, the Sabres organization was less than thrilled. Team GM Tim Murray said that these negative headlines about Kane was not something I like, that's for sure. In fact, just months earlier in 2016, the Sabres had suspended Kane for missing a practice after he partied late at the NBA All-Star Game, indicating a pattern of off-ice irresponsibility. Ultimately, Kane escaped conviction in the Buffalo bar incident, with the charges being dropped in late 2016 after Kane met certain conditions. However, even as the Buffalo bar saga was unfolding, Kane was hit with another serious allegation that added to the reasons many grew to despise him. Barely a week after his bar arrest, a 21-year-old Buffalo woman filed a lawsuit accusing Evander Kane of assaulting her in the hotel room. According to court documents filed on July 1st, 2016, the woman alleged that in late December 2015, Kane had met her at a local bar, invited her and some friends to what he claimed would be a party in his hotel suite, and then viciously attacked her once they were alone in the room. The lawsuit described Kane's actions as unwanted, unconsented to, violent, and offensive in nature, essentially outright physical battery. She claimed Kane's attack left her with cuts and severe bleeding that required multiple surgeries, as well as lasting emotional trauma. Notably, this incident had been investigated by the police earlier as a possible sexual assault. In the immediate aftermath of the potential assault, the woman had gone to authorities. Police investigated Kane for sexual assault, but in March 2016, prosecutors announced they would not be filing any criminal charges due to lack of evidence. Kane had been effectively cleared of criminal wrongdoing in that encounter, but the cloud of suspicion remained. With the case being brought up in a civil matter, the woman revived the allegations in vivid detail, now seeking accountability through the courts. Kane's lawyer at the time denied any wrongdoing and noted that no criminal case was brought. It's worth emphasizing how bad this looked for Kane in the court of public opinion. Here was a young woman portraying him as a predator who lured her and ultimately assaulted her behind closed doors. All of this coming on the heels of the Buffalo bar brawl news. This painted the picture of Kane as someone who disrespects women and resorts to violence, fueling a growing dislike of him among the fans. The hotel room assault case dragged on for years and was partly delayed due to Kane's later bankruptcy, which we will speak about a little bit later. Kane even countersued her for defamation at one point, insisting her claims were fabricated. For a long time, the case remained unsolved, keeping the allegations in the background of Kane's story. It wasn't until 2022 that Kane quietly settled the lawsuit out of court, with both her claim and the countersuit being dropped as part of the deal. No details were made public, and Kane admitted no guilt. However, 2016 will always be known as a rough time in Kane's career. After the 2016 incidents, for the next couple of years, Kane managed to stay out of serious legal trouble, and in 2018, he found a new home with the San Jose Sharks, who signed him to a lavish 7-year, $49 million contract. However, that all changed in November 2019. A casino in Las Vegas sued Kane for $500,000, alleging he had racked up enormous gambling debt during the NHL playoffs and then walked out without paying. The lawsuit, filed on November 4, 2019, claimed that during a road trip to Las Vegas earlier that year, Kane was extended $500,000 in casino market credits to gamble with, spread across 8 transactions, ranging from $20,000 to $100,000. This occurred in mid-April 2019, when Kane's Sharks were in Las Vegas to play the Golden Knights in a heated first-round playoff series. In fact, records showed that the casino gave Kane credit on April 15, 2019, the off day between Game 3 and 4 of the playoff series. According to the casino, Kane failed to repay any of the $500,000 despite their efforts to collect the money. The lawsuit sought the full $500,000 alongside legal fees. At the time, neither Kane nor the Sharks commented publicly on the suit, but it quickly became big news. It's not every day that a pro athlete is sued for such a bizarre, unpaid gambling debt. The story reinforced rumors that loomed for years that he had a serious gambling habit. The Vegas debt incident also added a layer to Kane's villain status in Las Vegas specifically. During that 2019 playoff series, Kane had engaged in an ugly all-night feud with Las Vegas enforcer Ryan Reeves. They two fought during Game 3, just hours before Kane allegedly took the casino, and Reeves mockingly called Kane the babysitter in post-game trash talk. The incident was so heated that it made Kane public enemy number 1 for Vegas Golden Knights fans. So when the casino lawsuit came out, Vegas supporters used it against him. Here was Kane getting in trouble on their turf. However, legally, this episode concluded relatively quietly. A few months later, in April 2020, the casino dropped the lawsuit against Kane. The case was dismissed and no official reason was given. It was widely assumed there was an out-of-court settlement or a repayment deal was reached. However, the next major bombshell dropped in early 2021 and confirmed that his financial situation was in shambles. On January 11th, 2021, Kane filed for Chapter 7 bankruptcy in Federal Court of California, declaring that he was nearly $27 million in debt. This filing was astonishing, given that Kane had earned a fortune in his career, including a $49 million contract from the Sharks. According to reports, Kane listed liabilities of almost $27 million against assets of about $10 million. This meant Kane had somehow burned through the bulk of the earnings from his 11-year contract. The bankruptcy filing didn't spell out every detail of how Kane accumulated so much much debt, but several factors were hinted at. Massive gambling losses appeared to be the culprit. In fact, Kane's filing listed $1.5 million in gambling debts among the money he owed. He also owed large sums of money to various banks, lenders, and individuals. It came to light that Kane had taken a number of high-interest loans, often using future paychecks as collateral, and was facing over half a dozen lawsuits from lenders and creditors. One startling aspect of the bankruptcy papers was the note that Kane was considering opting out of the 2020 to 2021 season due to health and safety concerns. If he skipped the season, he would not be paid his $7 million salary, which suggested that could complicate his ability to pay debts. In the end, he did report and play for the Sharks in the 2020 to 2021 season, performing well on the ice even as his finances were in turmoil. But the mere fact that his bankruptcy paperwork raised the possibility of not playing showed how really dire his money problems really were. The bankruptcy was a turning point in how fans perceived Kane. Here was a player who had earned elite money, but was broke and seeking legal protection from creditors, a sign of apparent irresponsibility and self-destructive habits like gambling. It generated little sympathy. Instead, many fans held Kane up as an example of an athlete who had squandered his talent and fortune, reinforcing the negative image that everyone hates him. Not only did he have off-ice violence issues, now he couldn't even manage his money and was entangled in lawsuits and debts. The bankruptcy also set the stage for even more legal drama in the months to follow, as various lenders challenged Kane's attempt to wipe out what he owed. In the wake of Kane's bankruptcy filing, some of his creditors were livid, and one decided to take additional legal action, accusing Kane of outright fraud. In May 2021, Professional Bank, a Florida-based lender, sued Kane for $15 million, alleging that Kane fraudulently obtained a $1.5 million loan from them and never intended to pay it back. The lawsuit was an extraordinary escalation. The bank wasn't just trying to recoup the $1.5 million, it was seeking 10 times that amount in damages, essentially to punish Kane if the allegations proved to be true. The lender painted a picture of Kane as a man who misled numerous banks. It claimed that around 2019, Kane had applied for a $1.5 million loan, leveraging his rich Sharks contract as evidence of ability to repay. However, the bank alleged that Kane was already deeply in debt to other banks at the time. Essentially, they said Kane was taking out multiple big loans concurrently, knowing he couldn't pay them back, and planning to default. The lawsuit stated bluntly, by all appearances, the plan back then was that these amounts were never going to be paid back. One glaring detail was that Kane allegedly defaulted almost immediately on the professional bank loan. It noted that he failed to make the very first scheduled interest payment, and even revoked the automatic payment arrangement that was supposed to pull money from his Sharks paycheck to pay the loan. This left the bank realizing too late that Kane might have been juggling a house of cards financially. Kane, for his part, denied any intentional fraud. Through his bankruptcy attorneys, he insisted that he had been transparent about his finances and that he was struggling largely because of a gambling addiction, a problem he said he was getting professional help for. Indeed, around this time, Kane publicly admitted he had a serious gambling problem that had gotten out of hand, which many saw as an understatement given his debts. Kane's lawyers also suggested that the bank's aggressive lawsuit was emotional and was an overreach, noting that a bankruptcy judge had recently ruled that creditors couldn't seize Kane's future hockey wages. Fans already tired of Kane's antics had more fuel. Here was a millionaire athlete being compared to a problem gambler and liar in court. It was hard not to view Kane some type of way. He had not only run out of money, but now was basically scamming for more cash. The lawsuit remained pending for some time, entangled with the bankruptcy case, which I won't really bore you guys with. However, if the financial scandals weren't bad enough, mid-2021 brought an even more explosive controversy for Kane. In late July 2021, Kane's estranged wife, Anna, made a series of shocking public accusations on Instagram, claiming that Kane had bet on his own NHL games and was tanking games on purpose to cash in. Essentially, Kane was engaging in match fixing. Anna Kane's claims came in the midst of a divorce between her and Evander. On July 31st, 2021, from her personal Instagram account, Anna posted that Evander was a compulsive gambling addict who obviously was throwing games to win money. Can someone ask Commissioner Gary Bettman how they let a player gamble on his own games? She was accusing the NHL of turning a blind eye while her husband bet on his own games and willfully tried to lose for profit. She provided no specific evidence in her post, but the allegations were heavy. In another post, Anna also aired personal grievances, claiming Evander had spent lavishly partying in Europe while she was at home unable to afford baby formula for their infant daughter, and that he had asked her to sell her wedding ring for money. Kane swiftly denied the betting allegations. The very next day, August 1st, Evander Kane took to social media and denied his wife's claims. He wrote, "I never gambled gambled/bet on hockey, never gambled/bet on the Sharks game, never gambled/bet on any of my games, and never thrown a hockey game, emphasizing the word never repeatedly. Kane asserted that he loved hockey and would never jeopardize its integrity, noting that he had just had the best season of his career and was the most consistent he's ever been, which he used as a counterclaim for the notion that he was throwing games. He also suggested Anna's claims were coming from a place of personal turmoil, referring to her as mentally unwell and alluding to the messy divorce situation. Kane also expressed a willingness to cooperate fully with the NHL for an investigation to clear his name. The NHL, for its part, took the allegations very seriously. The league announced that it was launching a full investigation on the matter. Within days, the NHL had hired an outside law firm to scrutinize Kane's betting history, financial records, and communications. This was unprecedented territory in modern NHL history, investigating whether an active player had bet on his own games. As this inquiry got underway, Kane was already becoming an outcast. Teammates on the Sharks were reportedly furious and wanted nothing to do with him. Multiple San Jose players told team management they no longer wanted Kane in the locker room, according to media reports. The Sharks advised Kane to stay away from the training camp until the matters were resolved. In September 2021, after nearly 2 months of the investigation, the NHL announced its findings. The league found no evidence of Anna's claims that Kane was betting on his own games. The league officially considered the matter closed. It later surfaced that Kane had wagered on other sports that culminated his big gambling debt, which he himself admitted, but nothing indicated that he bet on hockey. Even though Kane was formally cleared of the game-fixing allegation, damage from the episode was significant. Kane's name was just tarnished. It seemed like no one liked him. He was a chronic gambler with poor judgment that had charges for violence. Sharks fans were embarrassed and angry. Other teams' fans saw him as a disgrace, and the situation even drew comments from non-hockey observers given its nature. Incredibly, while the gambling drama was unfolding, Kane had another scandal. This time, it was even more serious, involving accusations of domestic violence and sexual assault in his marriage. As mentioned before, Kane's divorce battle was spiraling into public view. Both sides alleged abusive behavior by the other. In August 2021, Kane actually went to court first, obtaining a temporary restraining order against his wife, Anna. In his filing, Kane claimed that Anna had physically abused him in the past, and he sought to make the restraining order permanent. This move by Kane suggested he felt threatened and was trying to document a history of being this victim of abuse. However, that story was soon overshadowed by what came next: Anna's own allegations against Evander. On September 22nd, 2021, the same day as the NHL cleared Kane of the gambling allegations, Anna Kane filed for a domestic violence restraining order against Evander, and in her application, she accused him of multiple instances of horrific abuse. According to the court documents, Kane had sexually assaulted her and had committed domestic battery on several occasions. Specific details were not made public at the time, but reporting indicated that Anna's claims included assault and physical violence during their marriage. Kane and his attorney denied the allegations. Nevertheless, these claims had to be taken seriously. The NHL immediately announced it would investigate these domestic violence allegations as well, and for the second time in a few months, Kane was under league investigation. Now not for gambling, but for off-ice personal conduct. Kane was in a kind of limbo this period. He wasn't on the ice, having been told to stay away due to other issues, and now had this to deal with. Throughout the following months, the league quietly looked into Anna's claims. Then, on October 18th, 2021, the NHL made a brief announcement that its investigation could not find any reasonable evidence of Anna Kane's allegations of domestic abuse. In the same press release where the NHL announced Kane's punishment for a different matter. More on that soon. They included a line that the concurrent investigation into the domestic assault claims by Kane's ex-wife could not be substantiated. In other words, the league could not find any evidence. It's important to note that the word substantiated isn't the same as proven innocent, but in the absence of evidence, the NHL had to move on. Still, the mere existence of these accusations further poised Kane's reputation. By this point, a segment of fans and fellow players were ready to believe almost any negative story about him. He was known as a chronic gambler, abuser, and a very violent person. The cloud of these allegations would continue to hang over Kane's name, but just as it seemed the off-ice turmoil had reached its peak, Evander Kane managed to find himself at the center of a COVID-19 related scandal, one that resulted in one of the longest suspensions in NHL history for an off-ice matter. In the fall of 2021, as the NHL was gearing up for a new season, reports emerged that Kane had submitted a fake COVID-19 vaccination card to the league and the Sharks. This was at the time when COVID protocols in the NHL were strict. While players were not absolutely required to be vaccinated, unvaccinated players faced severe restrictions, including frequent testing, travel limitations, and potential loss of pay if they couldn't participate due to local health rules. A vaccinated player, by contrast, had more freedom and could travel to Canada for games without quarantines, etc. If Kane indeed forged or bought a phony vax card to pass as vaccinated, it would be a serious violation, not only illegal in many jurisdictions, but also a direct breach of NHL and team rules to protect everyone's health. And once again, the NHL began investigating Kane for this matter in late September 2021, even before the season began. And on October 5th, 2021, a report by Front Office Sports first broke the news publicly that the league was examining whether Kane had provided a fraudulent proof of vaccination. Major outlets soon followed, like The Athletic, Associated Press, ESPN, and more, confirming that the inquiry was underway. Kane's past behavior and the fact that he had already been under investigation for other issues meant the news was met with eye rolls and anger. Many fans weren't surprised. Of course Evander Kane would do this, was a common sentiment. After a swift investigation, the hammer came down hard. On October 18th, 2021, the NHL announced that Evander Kane was suspended for 21 games without pay for violating COVID-19 protocols. This suspension, about a quarter of the season, was specifically due to an established violation and lack of compliance with the NHL/NHLPA COVID-19 protocol, which insiders confirmed was indeed the use of a fake vaccination card. Kane issued an apology through the NHL's Players Association after the suspension was handed down. I would like to apologize to my teammates, the San Jose organization, and all the Sharks fans for violating the NHL COVID protocol. I made a mistake, one I sincerely regret and take responsibility for. He added that during this time, he'd continue counseling to make better decisions and that he hoped to return to the team afterward and move on. Despite the apology, the damage was done. At a time when society at large was deeply divided over COVID-19 measures, Kane's fake vax card stunt made headlines well beyond sports. Many saw it as a selfish, dangerous act. Kane's reputation, already in tatters, sunk even lower. Once again, people who don't even follow hockey heard about the player who faked a vax card, making even more people hate him, even outside of the hockey circles. However, the Sharks made it clear that Kane was now welcome back. They placed him on waivers and told him to stay away from the team. No team claimed him on waivers, unsurprisingly given the baggage and salary, so he was assigned to the Sharks AHL affiliate. This was effectively a demotion. The Sharks did not want him back in their NHL squad. He had to play in the minors to attempt a comeback. He reported to the AHL in November 2021, playing a few games to get back into shape. He performed well on the ice there, but it hardly mattered since the relationship between Kane and the Sharks was beyond repair. Behind the scenes, San Jose was actively trying to trade Kane, and then came one final controversy. In late December 2021, while Kane was in the AHL affiliate of the Sharks, he breached the AHL's COVID-19 protocols by traveling while he was positive for COVID. Sources revealed that Kane had tested positive for COVID-19 in December and was supposed to be isolating, but he traveled to Vancouver, Canada, despite the mandatory isolation period. This was a direct violation of both AHL rules and likely Canadian quarantine laws. When the Sharks found out, that was the end of the line. On January 8th, 2022, the Sharks placed Evander Kane on unconditional waivers and announced they intended to terminate his contract for breach of the standard player contract and violating the AHL's COVID rules. By doing so, the Sharks were prepared to forfeit the remaining 4 years of Kane's deal, nearly $22 million still due, just to get rid of him. Kane cleared waivers, no team was going to claim the contract given the circumstances, and the Sharks formally avoided the rest of the deal. The NHL supported the Sharks' decision, agreeing that Kane's violation was severe enough to constitute for cause of termination. The NHLPA immediately filed a grievance on Kane's behalf, contesting the termination as unjust. A contract termination is rare, and the case went to arbitration. However, the arbitrator could render a final decision. Kane and the Sharks reached a private settlement in 2022 to avoid litigation. Reports later indicated a settlement was reached in April 2022. By then, Kane had already moved on to a new opportunity. Incredibly, just weeks after being cut loose, he signed a one-year deal with the Edmonton Oilers in late January 2022, getting another chance in the NHL. It was a major risk for a team in playoff contention, taking on a player with a massive cloud of controversy, a terminated contract, and a fractured reputation. But the Oilers saw upside. Kane could still score goals, and the team desperately needed that. To Kane's credit, he embraced the opportunity like a fresh start. He spoke publicly about wanting to prove he could be a better teammate, a better professional, and a more disciplined person off the ice. I know the kind of person I am. I know the work that I've done to get to this point, and I plan on continuing that moving forward. He acknowledged the controversies behind him, but emphasized growth, saying he'd been doing counseling and self-reflection. The Oilers organization made it clear that they had done their due diligence, speaking with Kane and others around him before extending the lifeline. On the ice, Kane delivered. He scored 22 goals in the 43 regular season games for Edmonton, then added 13 more goals in the 2022 playoffs. His chemistry with McDavid was immediate, and his physical style gave the team a new edge. In short, Edmonton became Kane's shot at redemption. While his off-ice history remained a shadow, the Oilers' years marked a phase where Kane appeared to be trying to stabilize his life and career, rebuilding his image, not just with goals, but with a public effort to leave the chaos behind. He's been very public about his struggles and acknowledges them, and is trying to better himself every single day. However, that doesn't help for the many people that still dislike him. After recently signing with the Canucks, fans and media alike have expressed frustration in the signing of Kane. Social media and news articles can be seen full of Vancouver fans complaining about the signing, to the point that he was recently reportedly beat up in Vancouver by a group of individuals outside a bar in downtown Vancouver. According to reports from multiple Vancouver-based sources, including the Two Mutts Hockey podcast, which has a strong track record of breaking Oilers news, Evander Kane was jumped by a group of individuals outside a bar in downtown Vancouver, and reportedly required medical attention afterward. The incident is still under investigation, and is said to have video evidence coming to light soon. But the early word is that Kane did nothing to provoke the attack. This wasn't just a bar fight or a disagreement, it's a brutal symbol of how deep the hatred goes. In most cases, a homecoming trade like this would be cause for celebration. But for Kane, even a fresh start comes wrapped in controversy, mistrust, and now physical violence. And it seems like the hatred for Kane is not going anywhere. Before this video ends, I just want to quickly say that, whilst like all of you, I don't agree with everything that Kane has done in his past. I do believe in change, and Kane has seemed to have bettered himself as a person, so keep an open mind and just understand that people can change, and that no one in this world is perfect, so yeah. Also, I had this video in the works for a couple of weeks, and the Vancouver news that he was attacked came out basically this morning whilst I was editing, so that's kind of whack. Yeah, no one should be doing that. It's just kind of just whack, just a sad situation, you know, like, I just feel bad. Like, I know he's passed, and obviously I don't agree with it, but no one should be just, like, treated that way. Especially after he has tried to better himself as a person, you know, he's not like a full-on, like, piece of crap human being. Apart from that, thank you all for the support, and if you liked this video, consider subscribing to the channel and liking, and yeah, I'll see you all in the next one.